presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox. We are Florida.
Last night, the Nationals blasted their way to a comeback win. 3 home runs late knocked the Marlins bullpen for a loop. Today, Suns out, guns out. 2 games, 4 starters. Justin Nicolino, come on out. Steven Strasburg's up. He's nasty at 5-0. In the nightcap, Kendrys Flores, welcome back to the show. And Tanner Roark, you're up too. Day-night doubleheader. Busy day in D.C. So don't run off. It's game 1, Marlins and Nationals. Yes, the Suns out, which is good in Washington, D.C., because the Nationals and the Marlins are going to play 2 today. We've got both for you. This starts the doubleheader. A day-nighter, 7 o'clock is the next game, but this one starts right now. And the Nationals and Marlins are ready to go. Glad you're with us. Hi, everybody. Rich Waltz, Preston Wilson. Playing 2. As a kid, you used to love to go and watch 2. Now it's 2 admissions here, but for the ball clubs, 2 very important ball games.
2 ball games, and they need them. You want to beat this national team. They're ahead of you in the NL East. You got to beat them, and now is a good day to start.
To beat them, you have to figure out the puzzle that is Bryce Harper. And the Marlins could not figure him out last night. This broke a 2-2 tie. How do you stop this guy?
I think the big thing is if he's going to leave the yard, it's got to be a solo shot. Try not to walk guys. The Marlins have walked way too many guys this series, and when you put him in a situation where he can hurt you, he will hurt you.
Justin Nicolino goes after the Nationals and Harper. It's your Nicolino. You pitch to contact. So how do you get Harper out doing that?
Just got to be quality strikes. It can't be in the fat part of the strike zone. Pitch him up and away, down and away. Make him hit the ball out of the ballpark. If he does, make him do it the other way.
Preston, Steven Strasburg is one of the hottest pitchers in baseball. He hasn't lost since last September. That's 11 starts worth.
This guy has been battling injuries, but now he looks like that product that they thought they were getting when they drafted him. Everything is working for him, and he's hot.
Yeah, they've signed him, and he's on the hill today. Big crowd expected Saturday afternoon and Saturday night. Are you ready for 2? Let's start the first. Baseball on Fox Sports Florida is brought to you by the all-new 2017 Chrysler Pacifica. By the Florida Department of Transportation, reminding you to drive sober or get pulled over. By your local Toyota dealers, let's go places. And by Southwest Airlines, transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. Teddy Roosevelt, the racing presidents, the Marlins, and the Nationals. And here come the fish, and it's brought to you by UHealth Sports Medicine.
Derek Dietrich, Martin Prado, Christian Yelich, Giancarlo Stanton are your top four. Then comes Justin Bour, Marcell Ozuna, Adeiny Hechavarria, Jeff Mathis for the next four. And the last one, Justin Nicolino.
Justin Nicolino, and that lineup will be facing Stephen Strasburg. Preston, we talked about the run that he's on. In the 11 starts since his last loss, the Nationals have won every game, and he has a decision in 8 of those games. He's 8-0 with a 1.36. That goes back to September 9th of last year.
He's looking good. I think he's got his fastball command under control. He's pitching with his fastball. He's throwing strikes, and he's still got good stuff.
Yes, he does, and he's very wealthy as well after signing a 7-year, $175 million extension this week. So the Marlins trying to bounce back from last night. They had a 2-0 lead evaporate under a flurry of home runs, 2 of them pinch hit home runs. Derek Dietrich will lead it off with Martin Prado and Christian Yelich. And this is fun. I like this. 2 games, 1 day, a 1 o'clock and a 7 o'clock. Derek Dietrich digs in, and Strasburg throws a strike. It's 0-1. Dietrich last night, a scary moment when he was hit up in the arm. He wheeled around and got hit by Felipe Rivero. That was in the 9th inning. Dietrich swings and misses, but the ball actually caught him above the pad. You see that on the right arm, up on the bicep shoulder area, and he popped up and ran down to first. He's behind in the count, 0-2. You see Dietrich on that list of hit by pitch, and Strasburg, as he can do, not only will elevate but also turn up the dial on the velocity. There's that fastball that came up and in. Slow breaking ball, strike 3 called. Strasburg now has 59 strikeouts in 49 innings.
When pitchers get a feel, sometimes it lasts for a long time, and Strasburg looks like he's in one of those runs where every time he takes the mound, he's feeling it.
There are some Marlins individually that have pretty good numbers against Strasburg. Martin Prado, who took an 0 for 4 last night, saw his average dip. We all should be so lucky to 373, and a fastball taken for a strike. Prado opens 3rd in the hitting charts in the National League. Daniel Murphy still on top at 405. Marlins just saw Ryan Braun. He's hot. Prado drills that ball right center field, hit well. Taylor's over, and he dashes in front of Harper and makes the catch. That ball had some tail to it.
Taylor just covered a lot of ground out there. That ball was almost in right field when he caught it. See where he catches it. In front of the Geico sign. Well, it's on an angle, but he's way over there.
And he's really good defensively. And, of course, if you're a South Florida baseball fan, you know he's a Fort Lauderdale kid out of Westminster Academy. And his teammate at Westminster Academy and here in D.C. has arrived. The 26th man for the Nationals is Matt Den Decker. He's been called up for this doubleheader as Yelich takes ball 1. Major League rules, doubleheaders now, teams can add an extra player. Oftentimes it's a pitcher. Nats have added Den Decker. Marlins, Kendrys Flores. Yelich, center field. That's deep. I mean deep. Wow. 1-0 Miami, and Christian Yelich bangs out his 5th home run. And just like that, Miami's off to a quick start. Michael Taylor didn't budge in center field.
When they hit that far, there's no need to. I mean, I know pitchers want you to run. They feel like you're showing them up, but let's go. Everybody knew as soon as this ball hit the bat that it was gone. Yelich can surprise you with the power that he displays sometimes. He's a 6'4" kid, but he's slightly built. But there's a lot of power in that swing.
A lot of power. So 1-0 Miami. And here's Stanton. He is one of the guys that's had success against Strasburg. But he pops that one up into shallow right center. Taylor's in. And he makes the catch. But Miami's on the board. Christian Yelich dead center against Strasburg. And it's 1-0 Miami. Christian Yelich, his 5th homer of the season. Nationals lineup. They arrive in this orderly fashion, brought to you by UHealth Sports Medicine.
Leading off is Michael Taylor. Anthony Rendon is second. Bryce Harper is third. Daniel Murphy is playing second base, batting cleanup. Ryan Zimmerman, Jason Worth are the next two. Wilson Ramos, I like that name, 7th. Espinosa's 8th. And Strasburg is in 9th hole.
He's hitting 250, that's Steven Strasburg. And here is Justin Nicolino. The 24-year-old makes his 4th start this year. The Orlando native. Last time out, pitched very well. 6 innings, 2 earned. A no decision against the Phils. And he misses away. He hasn't seen much of the Nationals, and they haven't seen much of him, which isn't such a bad thing going into this start, first of this doubleheader. His 1 start against him last year. And he misses away. He's gone 3-0 on a speedy guy. Certainly not a guy you want on base, as Preston has detailed both on Marlins Live and at the outset of our telecast. These first 2 hitters in front of Harper, so important to get out. And I'm not sure where that pitch missed. Well, I guess when you miss that badly on your first 3, you're probably not going to get a borderline pitch like that, which looked like it did clip the knees and had the plate. But as it is now, Nicolino has to operate with Taylor at first, and here is Rendon. By the way, David Rackley is calling balls and strikes. Roberto Ortiz is making his major league debut, umpiring at first. Alfonso Marquez is at second, and Chris Guccione is at third base. And here is Rendon, who was a pest last night, walking twice. Quick snap throw. Taylor's back. Rendon chewed up a lot of pitches in his at-bats. Lots of foul balls, and the 2 walks certainly key, especially in that 7th. He walked in front of Harper, who would homer off of Kyle Barraclough and break that 2-2 tie. Taylor's leaning and running on the pitch, which is taken. Mathis throw on the bag, but not in time.
Great jump by Michael Taylor at first base. Mathis did what he could, but just too much speed and a good jump So that's an exciting looking young player right there. I think he's going to be good for a while.
Marlins may be looking at this, although Dietrich's foot on the bag, and Taylor looked like he got the bag. 5th stolen base. You've got to know that Davey Lopes at first base has a read on Nicolino, because you don't come out of the chute against a lefty you haven't seen much and run like that with such confidence unless you've got that man, the stolen base guru.
It helps to have guys who understand what to look for. And over the years, he's seen a lot of these pitchers, so he's got a book on a lot of guys.
Rendon still waiting to heat up in the 2 spot. He saw 29 pitches in 4 at-bats last night. And right now, Justin Nicolino looks unsettled. A walk to Taylor. He's 3-0 on Rendon. He has not thrown a strike yet in this ball game. And of course, you've got Harper, Murphy, and Zimmerman all lined up after Rendon. There's a strike.
That's not going to get any easier. So he's going to have to start pounding the strike zone and working a little quicker. I feel like the pace for him is a little slow right now.
Yeah, he's usually a guy that, you're right, Preston, is up tempo. Well, at the outset of the telecast, Preston Wilson talked about not allowing base runners in front of Harper. And of course, at the top of that list is don't walk anybody in front of Harper. And Nicolino has walked Taylor and Rendon. And here's Harper now. Harper against lefties this year, 304 average. And he has hit 2 homers against lefties. 2 of his 11 have come against left-handers. Then you got Murphy behind him, and Murphy has really hit lefties well this year to the tune of 448. So Nicolino having trouble finding the strike zone. And with fans settling into their seat, Bryce Harper steps in. Walked twice last night, 2 for 2, single, 2-run homer. Harper poised at the plate.
This is a tough spot for Nicolino to be in, fighting your mechanics, trying to find the strike zone, and knows he's got to throw a strike, and that guy's at the plate.
Yeah, it's not one of those cases where you could just lay one right down the middle and hope for the best. Breaking ball misses. And he's 2-0. Justin Nicolino has thrown 10 pitches. You see where that one missed. 10 pitches, just 1 strike. There's a strike. Harper and the crowd a bit surprised, and they should be. That's a break. We'll see if the young lefty from Orlando can take advantage of it.
That was a very generous call. Well, sometimes get a little help, get you going, relax a little bit.
Well, it's 3-1 now. And for Nicolino, as we said, Daniel Murphy is having a field day against lefties this year, and he is on deck. Breaking ball misses. Bags are loaded. And you can see Nicolino trying to gather himself.
This is one of those situations where being a pitcher is a very lonely existence. It's you standing up there on that bump, trying to figure it out, trying to minimize the damage that's going to be done, and it's all on you.
Boy, and you know, all of the circumstances here, the Nationals, bags loaded, you had to face Harper, you lost him, now Murphy, first game of a doubleheader. Obviously, you can't get to your bullpen early. And so here's Murphy, the pride of Jacksonville, with the bags loaded, and Nicolino searching for the strike zone. 14 pitches, 2 strikes. And there are the numbers that we talked about. Murphy 1 for 4 last night. Infield, double play depth. Nicolino throws a strike. And it is 0-1.
Right at the bottom of the strike zone. He's been down, which is good.
Murphy, of course, the former Met, has really been a nice addition here in D.C. Mathis has to smother that one, and it's a ball and a strike.
It just looks like Nicolino can't find a release point. And I think he's now going to the breaking ball to see if he has a better feel for that, to maybe throw a strike.
See the Sunday start against the Phillies. Don Mattingly watching. And a 1-1 pitch coming. Murphy drives it to right. It's deep. Stanton back at the track, reaches up, makes the catch against the wall. A run will score. Taylor comes home. Rendon to third. Harper holds first. And the game is tied and a run apiece. And Daniel Murphy narrowly missing a grand slam.
Yeah, this could have been a lot worse. See Murphy just right there, that nice short compact stroke.
2 things to think about here now. Zimmerman is coming off that awful weekend where he left almost the entire roster on base when he faced the Cubs. And Harper can steal a base. And remember the great jump that Taylor got, and you got to know that Davey Lopes may be aggressive here, trying to stay out of the double play. And a fastball for a strike opens the Zimmerman at bat. 0 for 4 last night. If this guy can get going, then the Nationals offense will really be something. As you see where he's been with runners in scoring position, and a lot of those runners were named Bryce Harper. That one is pulled foul. And it's 0-2. Defensively, first game of this double dip. It's brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Yelich, Ozuna, Stanton in the outfield. Prado and Justin Bour on the corners. Echeverria and Dietrich up the middle. Jeff Mathis gets the start in game 1. You'll see Real Muto in game 2. And Justin Nicolino trying to get out of this inning with just the 1 run. And we'll see now with 2 strikes if Harper's on the move. He has swiped 5 bags this year. Been caught 3 times. Good sized lead. He's leaning. And Nicolino saw it and goes over. It's funny. This is an awful place to call a game as a broadcaster. You're so high up. But for that one thing, seeing if a runner is leaning, this is not a bad perspective, Preston, because we're looking straight down instead of across. So we can kind of see, I mean, Taylor's lean was apparent. We are way, I mean, we're up the very, very top. 8 stories high.
Yeah, we're up here.
So let's take advantage of that while we can. We can see the lean quite well from here.
The field looks like a map, Rich.
It does. Nicolino ready. Not running. To center. Ozuna's got a head of steam. Rendon tags. Ozuna's got a great arm. Here he comes. The throw from Ozuna to the plate. He's safe with a head-first slide. Harper moves up. Oh, man, what a throw, and that was a lot closer than you thought it would be.
Wow, that was a rocket from Ozuna, and right on target. Good job getting behind it, and he just unleashes. Bryce Harper read the throw high, knew it wasn't going to be able to get cut. Would like for him to get the ball down a little bit, though. Make it a little harder on Bryce Harper to decide to take second base. Oh, man, that's close.
So the Nationals do not have a hit, but they have 2 runs. You see Ozuna's defensive numbers. Here's Worth, and Harper's the runner at second. And Worth takes in. So sacrifice flies by Murphy and by Zimmerman after 3 walks to open the inning by Nicolino. Harper, huge lead. And Nicolino sees that. Chases him back. Harper, and he had a running lead. He's going to steal it easily.
That's just a veteran. And I know he's young, but he's a veteran. Picking on a young guy who's struggling, knowing that the focus isn't there. He's just trying to figure out how to get the ball across the plate to get out of this inning.
Well, Nicolino's got to get some help from his middle infield too, doesn't he?
Well, with 2 outs, they're not going to mess around. He's got to do a better job of looking back, giving more than 1 look.
Worth, and it gets by Echeverria. It's into left. The Nationals have their first hit and their 3rd run. An RBI single by Jason Worth.
That ball scorched.
3-1 Washington. Ramos, who had the night off last night. Wilson Ramos has had a really nice start offensively. The .364 average. His on base is over 400, and he's slugging .545. He's helped pick up some of the slack of the off and cold starts from Zimmerman and Worth, and Rendon for that matter. Ball and a strike. Last night it was Miami that had a 2-0 lead. Game was scoreless until the midpoint. Marlins got those 2 runs in the 5th. Nicolino approaching 30 pitches in the inning. Two and two. This a makeup game for the rain out. First week of the season, the Marlins were here. Actually, it wasn't a rain out. It was more of a cold, some snow, and downright chilly. Back to Nicolino. Has it. Gets the out. But the 3 walks, all costly. They all score. It's 3-1 Washington. Runs already, but only 2 hits. The defense behind Stephen Strasburg. Fielding percentage-wise, this is the best in the National League. Southwest Airlines brings you Jason Worth, Michael Taylor, Bryce Harper, Anthony Rendon, Ryan Zimmerman on the corners, Murphy and Espinoza, Great Beard up the middle, Wilson Ramos behind the plate. So the challenge for the Marlins, not only down 3-1 early, but down to Stephen Strasburg, who hasn't lost since last September. And he misses outside to Justin Bour, Marcell Ozuna, and Adeiny Hechavarria. The trio to hit here in the second. Bour takes an off-speed pitch down low, looked like a changeup. Justin 5 for 16 against Strasburg with the homer. And in this ballpark, he always seems to have a big day when the Marlins come in, and Strasburg another changeup. And it's 3-0. There's the career numbers. His last 8 games here at Nationals Park, 3 homers and a couple of doubles. Fastball's up. How about that? A 4-pitch walk to Bour. For Strasburg, just his 13th walk, and this is start number 8. And here is Ozuna. You see Marcel's numbers against Strasburg. As Craig pointed out on Marlins Live, the Marlins have handed Strasburg some losses over the years. A lot of those coming down in Miami. And he misses in. "37 losses in his career. 7 of them are at the Marlins' hands."
It's a pretty large percentage.
5 of those in Miami. Just twice have they beaten him here. And boy, was he dominant when the Fish saw him in April in Miami. 8 innings, no runs, 3 hits, and 10 strikeouts. 1-2 to Ozuna. We solved the mystery of the Barry Bonds bat from last night. There's the line from that start in Miami. If you were with us last night, Ozuna on a at bat, his bat ended up over by the Nationals dugout. The Marlins asked for the bat back, and Strasburg with a changeup gets Ozuna. What happened on the at bat? It was a Bonds at bat, and Ozuna actually broke the bat. The Marlins bat boy, by rule, took it to the authenticator. Major League Baseball has an authenticator near the home dugout, so it wasn't Dusty that requested the bat. It was just protocol. Bonds didn't want the bat over with the authenticator, and so the busted bat went back to the Marlins dugout.
Rich, there you go, letting the truth get in the way of a good story.
I know. All kinds of conspiracy and conjecture. And you know, we were talking about bat boys, the Nationals bat boy, the Marlins bat boy. Remember that moment in the postseason when Dusty Baker's son was a bat boy. He ended up at home plate, and it was, I believe, JT Snow that had to rescue him from a play at the plate. Hechavarria takes out. I believe it was Darren.
Yes.
Hecha, an 0 for 4 and a couple of painful at bats. The most painful, the strikeout with the bags loaded, nobody out in the 6th. Fights that fastball off, and it's 1-2. That Strasburg changeup, you see Nicolino trying to collect himself. That Strasburg changeup is so good that it's, you know, righty, lefty, it doesn't matter. He'll throw it.
And that helps save his arm, because now he's not throwing as many breaking balls. The curveball puts a lot of torque on your arm, and with a guy of history of arm troubles, he's found a way to work around that.
Breaking ball, strike 3 call. Hechavarria doesn't like it.
Uncle Chuck is in the building.
And it was a good one. We'll see if it caught the zone.
Yeah, this is one of those where you just got to take it all back. Oh, it's inside.
Yeah, Etch is right. He is right to be upset. This is, as we note, not a straight look down the mound to the plate. It's offset, so that's why Fox Tracks is such a good tool to see where it was. Mathis now with Bohr still at first. I guess that's how you take care of a leadoff walk. And Strasburg struck out Ozuna. You got Echeverria. AutoNation brings you the scouting reports.
Got his new deal. Lost a lot of weight down to 235. And he could still reach back and get it. Can still touch 100 every now and then.
That's brought to you by AutoNation. I like how you work the mile per hour into the AutoNation sponsored.
It's the beauty of creative editing.
You had gear and speed. Now, if you had been able to get gasket in there, that'd have been.
What about catalytic converter?
They don't want to put one of those on him. Mathis lifts one, right center. Sunfield right now, and Taylor takes care of it. The Marlins waste a leadoff walk and trail this game 3-1.
Nationals have kicked off game one of this doubleheader. Playing two games in one day always presents challenges. Here is Don Mattingly on his biggest concern for today.
Well, just a lot of innings for your guys, and it can be a real challenge if it depends how the games go bullpen-wise. I think that's, if you give two games, you have a chance to win. You end up trying to use your guys. They pitch, they have to recover and get ready to pitch again, and so that's part of the issues with the two games.
And Mattingly, of course, concerned with that bullpen. Guys, already a stressful inning for Justin Nicolino. He threw 28 pitches in that first inning, so hopefully he can settle in and get deep into this game for the Marlins.
Jess, that's a great point. Doubleheader. Kendrys Flores is the 26th man for the Marlins. He'll start tonight after a bullpen last night that got used a bit. That's the fear with the Nicolino with the 3 walks to open the game, the 28 pitches, is that Mattingly doesn't want to be out there in the 4th inning going to the bullpen with another game tonight and a day game tomorrow, then 3 games in Philly. Espinoza up there right now, and the count is 3-1. You got Steven Strasburg and then Michael Taylor. 3 walks 2 sac flies and an RBI single.
You think Espinosa makes him throw another strike here? Nope.
Now the switch hitting shortstop fouls it back.
He's hacking.
Jeff Mathis dinged on that one.
He wasn't exactly just trying to hit a single there, Rich.
Well, he's always been kind of a big cut guy, a healthy cut. It sends Dietrich onto the outfield. Grass makes the play. And Espinosa the first out. Here comes Strasburg. We have microphones all over the ballpark here. And occasionally they'll pick something up that we regret. We apologize for that. Strasburg can swing the bat. Not sure if he picked any of that up from his college coach Tony Gwynn, the late Tony Gwynn, but as you indicated in your scouting report, he showed up at San Diego State heavy, big and heavy. He was 6'4", or he is 6'4" now, 235. And he probably shed 30 pounds at San Diego State. And as you noted, he dropped even more when he arrived as a minor leaguer for the Nationals. Hard ground ball. Prado across the diamond in time. 2 outs in the second. If you love sitting in a suite and watching baseball, the Marlins have a variety of those suites that you can rent for just one game. Big party time, right? From 16 to 60 guests. VIP service, exquisite food and beverage options. Book the Marlins Suite today, 1-877-MARLINS, or go to marlins.com/suites. Preston and I will be looking for exquisite food between games here.
Yes. We got to figure out how to get our nutrition right for this doubleheader, Rich.
That's right. We'll be looking for a smoothie place. And then a little lean protein.
Stay hydrated. Drink a lot of water today.
That's right. Blue Smoke Barbecue. Probably some protein we can find there. No smoothies. Now that's where Preston ate last night, and that's why we're on a health kick today.
Yes.
He crushed Shake Shack.
It didn't take long either.
That's not Tai Chi, or it's Ben's Chili. That one fouled back. There it is, Ben's Chili Bowl. Ben's Chi is a whole different thing. That's a Far Eastern meditation and yoga place right by DuPont Circle. Pitch misses out, and it's 3-2 to Michael Taylor. Taylor walked, Rendon walked, Harper walked, and that's for Nicolino, the start of his day. It's 3-2 on the speedy center fielder. And lost him. Well, pitch count rising. Walk total now at 4. And here's Rendon. We have had people inquire as to what players do and what we will do between games of this day-night doubleheader. There's not enough time to go back to the hotel and hang out. You're essentially, I don't want to say held captive, but you're here. The crowd will be dismissed, much like elementary school. Bell rings and everybody out of the building, because the next crowd gets set to come in. The crew here at the ballpark will try to clean as much as they can up from game 1, so that when they open the gates at approximately 5:30, the next crowd can come in. A strike. And keep your eye on Taylor at first. He swiped a bag in the first.
This umpire has a really big strike zone on the third base side right now. He's giving those pitches a lot in there. Saw the curveball to Echeverria was way in there just like that.
Taylor leaning, and he gets back in. Bohr at first. I don't know if he was fooled by the move. Let's take a look.
Now, sometimes you pick off your first baseman, and that happened right there. Bohr didn't stay with the bag, didn't stay with the pickoff move.
That's an out. That should be an out.
Yeah, that would be an out.
You pick a guy off like that, that's got to be an out. Two balls and two strikes. And as Preston detailed in Marlins Live, the players have a fine clubhouse. They will eat, get off their feet. Some will take a nap if they can.
Yeah, you just try to find some place where you can just kind of unwind for a little while. Maybe put on some headphones, kick back.
Maybe we should try that. Anthony Rendon strikes out. Nicolino gets through that second. And it's 3-1 Nationals. Presenting sponsor of Miami Marlins baseball. Love that shot from left field into Nationals Park. You can see Justin Nicolino up on the big board. He leads it off. And Steven Strasburg misses out with a fastball. So far, the weather's been fabulous here. Last night was terrific. Today, very comfortable. The forecast does call for, I think it's about a 50 or a 60% chance of rain this afternoon. Between 3 and 4, with the rain tailing off up until the night. Strasburg misses outside. Nicolino then top of the order with Dietrich and Martin Prado. What you don't want is a rain out of a makeup game. This is the makeup game. That day in April was bitterly cold. Snow was falling, and they called the game about 1 o'clock. Snow stopped around 3, but it was still very chilly. And Nicolino takes a rip at a 3-1 pitch. Count now 3-2.
He must be feeling pretty good about his swing right there.
That's good. Good work there by the crowd. You got the usher right on the scene. And Nicolino fouls it off.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him swinging 3-1 right there, though. 3-2 okay. 3-1 not so much.
Nicolino 1 for 31 in his career. And he's taking some good cuts right now off of Strasburg. And if you're Strasburg, you're thinking, all right, how many more fastballs do I waste until I dust off a nice changeup?
I would throw him a curveball before I throw him a changeup.
Nicolino is fighting off the fastball because the old adage is you don't want to speed up a pitcher's bat, and a changeup to him can look like a regular fastball.
And especially if it comes out flat, a straight change, that just becomes right into his bat speed.
See, look at the pitch speed on this AB. Nothing but fastballs. That's down low, and Nicolino walks. That's terrific at bat. And the leadoff walk in the second. And now a 9-pitch walk to lead off the third. And here's Derek Dietrich. Marlins run on a Christian Yelich homer. And it was an absolute no-doubter to straightaway center field. Dietrich was called out on strikes. For Justin Nicolino, I know you don't ask for the baseball in this situation. First career walk. So he's 1 for 31 with a walk.
Nice breaking ball. Well, you know, you got to get your first one somehow. Get your walk. I would ask for the ball, though. Why not?
That was the running joke with Wei-Yin Chen, who still does not have a major league hit. Asked him about that the other day. Remember, he had a ground ball that was ruled an error, then changed to a hit. Dietrich fouls it at the plate. They asked for the ball, but you knew that the scoring call was so bad that you knew it was going to be changed back to an error. But Chen asked for the ball. It was an infield hit, and as soon as they threw the ball out of play, they switched it back to an error. And I forget who it was on the bench tossed the ball into the seats.
That might become a Vegas betting line. When is he going to get his first hit?
Dietrich off of Strasburg, picked up there by Espinoza, who gets the double play. That's Danny Espinoza is a very good defender, but he's had a nice year at short, making that transition, filling in for Ian Desmond, who has departed.
And if you're Derek Dietrich, this is just rotten luck that ball goes right near the bag. Espinoza does a great job, though, turning 2 on that.
That's a 1-6-3 double play. Here's Prado now. There's your fielding percentage for shortstops. Espinoza, known for his glove, and has been a guy they've played at second, at third, and when Desmond and the Nationals parted ways, little tapper. Strasburg throws wild, and Prado is safe. And it's going to be an error on Strasburg.
Got to field your position. He gets to it, but he just doesn't step when he throws. I think he thought maybe Prado was further down the line. I think he had time to give a little step maybe and then throw that ball. Threw it flat-footed.
All right, Preston Wilson, you're Christian Yelich. You hit a fastball about 420 feet to straightaway center. What are you looking for first pitch here?
I'm looking for the fastball again, because a lot of pitchers will throw that pitch thinking that you're looking for a breaking ball.
That breaking ball is out.
Yeah, I'd still look for the fastball.
Here's the amazing thing about the Yelich home run.
Did you hear that sound? That's home run sound right there. And his leverage that he gets, I think he's going to increase his power in the next couple years of his career. We're going to see him get to some higher numbers.
Bouncer out to second. Murphy to first. Marlins done in the third. Nationals up here. First of two. It's 3-1. Good weekend to be in Washington, D.C. 3-1 Nationals on top of the Marlins. World War II Memorial. This copyrighted telecast presented by the authority. The Marlins may not be reproduced, retransmitted any form. Accounts and descriptions of the game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Fish. Rich Waltz, Preston Wilson, Jessica Blaylock. And as much as appointment television is for Marlin fans when Giancarlo Stanton is in the box, nobody's up getting anything with Bryce Harper at the plate. Harper shortens the bunt, takes a strike, and it's 0-2. Harper was walked in the first, and it wasn't Nicolino trying to pitch around him. He had walked Taylor and he had walked Rendon, and he couldn't find the strike zone, and he walked Harper to load the bags. Murphy and Zimmerman sack flies, Worth RBI single. It's a foul ball, and that one gets by the ball girl. It's 0-2.
Nicolino high right there, but I think he was trying to expand the strike zone. Maybe try to set up a breaking ball right here, give Harper something to look at up in his zone and throw the breaking ball down.
Got jams, pops it up on the infield. And Echeverria fighting the sun. That's out number one for Nicolino. If you can't catch the games on TV, you can stream them live on your mobile device with the new Fox Sports Go app. Download the app, take Fox Sports Florida and the Marlins wherever you go. I wonder if Dusty Baker can stream live on his Apple Watch. We saw it yesterday. Wristbands, toothpick. Sometimes he'll throw the batting gloves on if it's cold.
I like the fact that he used to wear spikes when he managed. I don't know if he still does, but he used to wear cleats.
There he is, got the phone going. Yes, wore the spikes. Daniel Murphy's up. It counts 2-0 to Murph. Sacrifice fly was in the first. What a year he's had so far. The leading hitter in the National League. He's second in hits overall to Gene Segura. Slugging percentage, Murphy's got that too, 649. That's third in the National League. On base, yep, 443, fourth.
He does such a good job keeping his body quiet and letting his hands do the work. He does use his lower body, but his head does not move much at all.
Justin Bour. Solid liner, and Bour was there. And that brings up Ryan Zimmerman. Zimmerman takes a strike. Before the telecast left air last night, we told you that the Phillies beat Cincinnati, so the Phillies are 6 over now at 21-15. The Mets were in Colorado, and Matt Harvey and the Metropolitans went down. Charlie Blackmon had 3 hits for the Rockies.
Chuck Nasty. It's his Twitter handle, Rich.
Is it?
Yes. Chuck Nasty.
Chuck Nasty.
I just like saying Chuck Nasty.
That was the first Coors Field start for Matt Harvey, and it was nasty for him. 11 hits, 5 earned runs. And so what that did to the standings, you ask, is it pushed the Phils a little closer to the Mets. The Marlins 3.5 back of the Nationals. Of course, the Marlins and the Phillies play on Monday night, starting a 3-game series. In the top-heavy East, where 4 teams sit over 500. And that's the only division in baseball that's got that. You got 3 teams over in the American League East. 3 teams in the Central. That one a liner to center. Boy, that was hit. It almost climbed over the glove of Ozuna. Justin Nicolino threw 3. Miami down 3-1. It's a great scene here in DC. The Wounded Warriors, who have seats right behind home plate, stand and acknowledge the crowd. A lot of emotion on both sides. That's one of the real cool things they do in baseball, and they do it well here. Stephen Strasburg, Giancarlo Stanton meeting number 2. Stanton flied out back in the first. Stanton busted out of a slump last night with a single and a double in his last 2 at-bats. He spins off that one, and it's a ball and a strike.
Strasburg seems to be mixing it up pretty well. That almost looked like a little cutter. So it's got that little, just that little break to it.
He's been toying around with that pitch for the last 6 months or so.
Velocity's at about 90. His changeup has been about 88.
And he goes up and in with a fastball and strikes out Stanton. Four strikeouts for Stephen Strasburg.
Yeah, you don't hit that cheese up there. That's a tough pitch to handle.
Here's Bour now, who walked back in the second. All right, Preston, here's a question for you.
Okie dokie.
If you had to take a starting rotation right now to the postseason, would you take the Mets or would you take the Nationals?
Wow. It's a very good question.
I mean, you have Max Scherzer, who,
and you have to take one or the other.
You got to take one or the other. You can't intermingle.
Okay.
And take an all-star team. You got to take one or the other.
I would take. Man, that's a tough one, because I'm looking at the different guys in those rotations. That's a tough one.
Well, Joe Ross to me is kind of the wild card, and a guy that may swing it towards the Nationals. 3-2 with a 2.29 ERA. Marlins see him tomorrow. Tanner Roark's ERA is in the low 2s. Steven Matz's elbow is a bit iffy. The Mets have indicated they're going to skip him for a start, but he should be ready to go next time out. Thor, to me, is the best pitcher that the Mets have going right now, and he's a pretty good hitter too.
Yeah.
You got DeGrom, Harvey. I think I lean towards the Nationals right now.
Yeah. Starting staff, definitely, I would say. I'd say because of the health of Matz, I think that's what sways it for me, more so than Ross.
Breaking ball, and Bour walks for the second time. Justin looks really dialed in. He's walked both times and taken some close pitches. And here comes Ozuna. It just shows you how good the top of the division is. And, you know, we haven't talked about the Phillies rotation, but, you know, the arms that the Marlins saw when the Phillies came through town were pretty impressive. Vince Velasquez, Aaron Nola.
I wonder if Strasburg wasn't feeling good about his fastball and a 3-1 there, whether he's, you know, just trying to go with that for effect, because you get a 2-run lead.
Little tapper, Strasburg captures it and gets one of the outs at first base. Two outs this summer. Some of the biggest names in soccer converge in the United States for the 100th anniversary of one of the world's biggest tournaments. Coverage of Copa America Centenario begins June 3rd across the networks of Fox Sports. I'll have to check with Eduardo to make sure I'm doing that right, doing it correctly. Echeverria fouls it at the plate. For Etch, it's been a tough series so far. He's 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts.
Yeah, he still just seems like he just can't get a consistent groove. He'll look good one at bat and then bad for a few. He'll look decent, hit one hard, and then it's off again. I'll go back to that 3-1 pitch. The 3-2 breaking ball to Justin Bour. You don't want to start putting traffic on the bases. Your team gave you a 2-run lead. In the old days, guys weren't worried about giving up a solo home run.
Well, look, we've talked about it with Jose Fernandez. Isn't that one of the transitions or adjustments you have to make as a power pitcher like Strasburg and Jose? And that is, there are times where you need to dial it up for a strikeout, and other times where it's just let your stuff in the strike zone do the talking for you.
I think that's absolutely right. And when you're an ace or top of the rotation type guy, you got to be in the game late in the game for your team. Like they want to be there, and you have to want to be there. You have to figure out how to manage it, how to get deeper into the game, and some of that's just attacking.
And that's certainly changed over the last 20, 25 years with pitch counts. And so part of that is understanding what your pitch count looks like and how long your manager is going to let you stay out there. You see the strikeout leaders. Jose pitches tomorrow for the Fish against Ross. Full count to Echeverria. Mathis is on deck.
I think that'll be a fun matchup tomorrow. Jose pitches like he did the last time out against Milwaukee. Got deep into the game, threw a lot of fastballs. Fastball had good life on it.
And Echeverria strikes out on a fastball from Strasburg. Still 3-1, Washington. Sports Florida brought to you by the all-new 2017 Chrysler Pacifica, by Checkers, fast foodies know the deal, and by Warren Henry, now celebrating our 40th year as Miami's best luxury dealer. Got to zip through those quickly so we can see the president's race. Look at Teddy go.
Teddy ball game.
Oh, Teddy. Oh, the presentation of the belts. And now the taunting of the other presidents.
He called that move the Rough Rider, Rich.
He had a wardrobe malfunction there, but he's good to go. I remember at the start of the president's race back in RFK, Teddy couldn't win a race, right? I mean, there was, I remember one time he actually rappelled from the roof of RFK trying to win a race. He went like 3-4 seasons and did not win a race until they got into this ballpark. One time Jason Worth actually, along with a couple of ball players, tackled some of the Presidents. And even then, I think Teddy started to pimp it at the end of the run and showboat it, and one of the tackled Presidents got up and beat him. I know it's commentary like that, Preston, that Worth at the plate. Nicolino's 2-1, and it's smoked into left for a base hit. Well, Jason Worth looks like his bat's starting to wake up. He's 2 for 2 with 2 solid singles to left. Wilson Ramos and Danny Espinosa now follow.
The last 2 balls, the ball that Ryan Zimmerman hit and the ball that Jason Worth hit, were right on the nose. Very well struck.
It's a good time to be a baseball fan in the Beltway. Nationals are good. Orioles are good. Baltimore is now 22-12 after their win. They've won 6 in a row. The Nats are 22-13 and holding a 1-game lead in the National League East. There's a smattering of afternoon play with the Yankees at home beating the White Sox 2-1 bottom 5. Houston a 5-2 lead over Boston at Fenway, top 3. Pirates and Cubs getting ready to play in Chicago. 1-1 pitch to Wilson Ramos.
See what Nicolino feels good about right here. It's ahead 1-2.
That one pulled foul. Make a play. She did. That's a Perry Hill disciple. She had the feet, the field, the funnel. Nice. Worth still at first. Dietrich, Echeverria, and the Marlins get 2. And nice now for Nicolino, tries to get through this 4th inning with not a lot of pitches. Fish Family is the exclusive loyalty program of Marlin fans. To learn more, log in, go to marlins.com/fishfamily. The bonus code is Capitol Hill. Espinosa, fly ball left. Yelich backing up, makes the catch, and Nicolino gets through with a 10-pitch inning. A 3-1 Nationals lead.
5th inning. Well, Wilson Ramos has a knack for being involved in some pretty incredible moments for the Nationals. The most recent one came this past Wednesday when he was behind the plate for Max Scherzer's 20 strikeout night. I had a chance to talk to Ramos about that game. He said it was absolutely amazing. He got more and more excited with each strikeout. And guys, interesting fact, Ramos actually changed the way that he called that game to try and increase the number of strikeouts for Scherzer, and obviously it worked. Scherzer became only the 4th player in the history of Major League Baseball to have 20 strikeouts in a game.
All right, thank you, Jessica. He's also the subject, Ramos is, of a great chant when he comes up. The Wilson chant. Mathis trying to bunt, pops it foul. It's from a song, Fish is the name of the group, P-H-I-S-H. And it's a chant that you hear a lot in Seattle for Russell Wilson. Maybe next time he comes up, we'll capture it. It is not Tom Hanks yelling Wilson, but it's the group Fish. Mathis with the count 1-1. Ramos, of course, earlier in his career had that scary moment when he was kidnapped in the offseason. Flare to right. Harper can't get it, and he kicks it into center. Not stopping is Mathis, and a good heads up. It's going to be a double for Jeff Mathis. And here comes Nicolino, and you would think he'll be bunting here. That snaps an 0 for 17 for Mathis. So Mathis in scoring position to open up this 5th inning. Infield looks bunt. Nicolino takes. Ramos throws down. Safe. If he had thrown Mathis out, they may have done the chant right there. He is a really good catch and throw guy. Shows you the athleticism of Mathis. Marlins actually have 2 of the more athletic catchers in combination in the big leagues, in Real Muto and Mathis. Nicolino walked for the very first time in his major league career, his last at bat. Now 1 for 33, actually 1 for 31, 1 walk and 3 sacrifice bunts.
Be nice to see him get this bunt down right here, help himself out. Also feel good about yourself when you help your team, you help yourself out. Give them a little confidence going.
Well, finding your self-esteem against Steven Strasburg for a regular hitter is not easy these days, let alone a pitcher. We told you Strasburg has not lasted or lost a start since last September 9th. He's 8-0 with an ERA of under 1.5, and the Nats have won all 11 of those starts that he's made. And Nicolino strikes out. It's a frustrating thing. A reminder, you can bring your group to Marlins Park. You get a personalized experience, spend quality time with your guests at an affordable cost. Big time for the family, for birthdays, for networking. Group sales team will help you at 1-877-MARLINS or go to marlins.com/groups. So Nicolino out, trying to bunt. And here now is Dietrich, who has struck out and bounced into a double play. As a hitter, Preston, one of the things that's you hear from hitting coaches or players is try to hit the ball hard up the middle. Why is that?
Well, the idea is you want to hit the fastball up the middle, and that way you can stay on the breaking ball. It gives you a chance at the off-speed stuff. If you just go up there trying to pull, you're giving up half the field or more, and you're not going to be able to hit any of the slow stuff.
So how do you deal with it if you're Dietrich? And the last 2 times up, you've done that. Remember last night, he hit that shot up the middle. It turned into a double play in a key spot. And then he banged one off of Strasburg that was ticketed for center field. That turned into a double play.
As hard as it is, you just can't change anything because you can't become results oriented. You did what you had to do. You just hit it at somebody or they made plays. You can't start trying to do more because then it'll go the other way on you.
Ramos held it for a second or two, but it's out. Count 1-2. So what you're saying is you have to respect the process.
Yes, that's it. Just stick with it.
Well, Dietrich strikes out. Strasburg with 2 strikeouts in the inning. Here comes Prado. This is a 7 strikeout game now for Strasburg. He struck out 10 Marlins in that early April start in Miami. Now that was Preston, not Prado, but Prado usually yells just like that. Not to make light of it, but I don't, you know, we do have decent plate sound. Let's hear if he yelled. Yep, he did, and it was after the fact. Prado usually lets out a yelp even before getting hit. He's got a guard on that left elbow, but I think that got him just above it and may have gotten in on the body too. So here's Yelich with 2 outs. Remember, it's just a 2-run game. Yelich homered in his first at bat. And the significance of that homer, not only for Yelich, but for Strasburg, who had allowed just 1 extra base hit to a left-handed hitter all season.
Wow.
That's how good that changeup is. And everything else for that matter. Lefties hitting in the 160s against him. An opportunity here. Mathis at second, Prado at first.
I think that changeup that he's developed more is really come into play against the lefties, and that little cutter. Some lefties you can get in on their hands, and now he's got something that works both ways, towards the batter and away from him. 97.
Yelich drives it to left, hits it well. Worth back, looking up, and it's off the wall. Mathis will score. Prado to third, and Yelich has himself a 2-out RBI double, and Miami's within a run. Boy, Christian Yelich is having an all-star season.
He's so good right now. Stays on that breaking ball and drives it the other way with some serious power. Jason Worth does a good job getting it in. Well, there goes another extra base hit by a lefty.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, Strasburg coming into this start in 74 at-bats by left-handed hitters had allowed just one extra base hit. Stanton now. Stanton 0 for 2. Strasburg misses outside. Now with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, looking for his first hit of the season.
I don't think he's realizing when they're not trying to pitch to him. You know, I think that's just something he's going to have to grow into.
Well, he's had success, Stanton has, against Strasburg in his career. Prado at third, Yelich at second, 2 outs. See if he gets something. He did at 2-0, fouls it back. That was in on his hands, though. That's a great pitch. Three career homers against Strasburg, and up with what looked like a backup breaking ball. 3-1 now. Boers on deck.
This may be one of those at bats Strasburg may just prefer to throw a curveball to try to get him to chase instead of throwing him a fastball right here. Changeup or a slider or a little baby cutter. I mean, it's right in the middle of the strike zone, but got away with it.
Count full now. Stanton on a hop. Espinosa gets him. An absolute bullet and a great play by Danny Espinosa. Miami gets another and trails it by 1. Head into Washington, D.C. Rain is expected this afternoon. The Marlins and Nationals are trying to play a day-night doubleheader around the rain. Strasburg, first pitch popped up, bore towards the tarp, and makes the catch. And how about Justin Nicolino? Man, he wobbled in that first inning and nearly fell over. He walked the first 3 hitters that he faced. They all scored, but he's tightened things up. The ball club, the Marlins, have made it a 3-2 game, and Nicolino still pitching here. 75 pitches. That's fairly manageable here in the bottom of the 5th.
He's been able to get a few quick innings in the last few innings. Get the pace of that pitch count down.
Taylor lines one into center, and he's been aboard all 3 times, the Fort Lauderdale native. Preston, have you ridden on the Marlins Express yet?
I have not.
All right, if you got a group, you can go to the ballpark in style. It's a sweet bus that gets you 30 or 50 person motor coach from any place you want to go, and starts at just $40 a person. 1-877-MARLINS, or email groups@marlins.com to get hooked up with the Express. I wonder if you're over in Naples, if the Express will come get you.
Good question.
Because Naples not that far away. Runner goes, thrown out at second, and another stolen base for Michael Taylor. He was the Express in the first and here in the 5th.
This bag is stolen on the pitcher. That's as soon as he moved, he went. Wow, that's a good jump.
6 stolen bases for the Westminster Academy product. Rendona's up now, 1 out. Taylor dancing from second. Over the head of Echeverria, into left. Yelich picks it up, round third. Taylor's going to score. And the Nationals get that run right back. Inability to control the running game has been a factor.
You're able to steal bases almost uncontested. That's put you in scoring position. It's asking for trouble. And Bryce Harper stole third, didn't really draw a throw. Good jump the first time by Taylor. Great jump on that last stolen base by Taylor.
All right, and here's Nicolino with a runner at first and Harper up. Now the Marlins haven't gone full Joe Madden on Harper in that weekend in which Harper in a 4-game series rarely saw anything to hit. He came into last night 18 walks in 7 games. Marlins walked him twice last night. He homered and he singled. And he pops that one up. Nicolino's calling for it, and Echeverria calls him off and makes the catch. And so 2 pop outs to the shortstop for Harper along with a walk. Geico goes back to 2012 when he became the youngest in Nationals history to homer. And you go back to Gary Carter, was the youngest before that. Now in this is obviously the Expos franchise. In this ballpark they have retired, or I guess they have numbers and names up, and the 2 Expos, Andre Dawson of course and Gary Carter, I believe are up there because they're Hall of Famers. And we did some research last night because it dawned on me that for a franchise like the Expos that were moved from Montreal, there were probably some Expos that were not honored with their numbers being retired, right? Because that happens as a franchise grows older. And so from our research, the 4 Expos who have had their numbers retired are Rusty Staub, Gary Carter, Andre Dawson, and Tim Raines. And Dave Van Horn, of course, the former voice of the Expos. I need to ask Dave, or maybe a guy like Jonah Carey, who's such a great resource on Expos history. If a guy like Tim Wallach, I mean, Wallach is the guy that I thought of that I wonder if the Expos had stayed in Montreal, if his number would have been retired for the career that he had. Now, of course, the Marlins bench coach.
He's a great player.
He was, and he was an all-star 5 times. There he is. And I think a very underappreciated player of his era because his best years came in Montreal.
Took a lot of hits away from my dad, I know that much.
Yeah. Up the middle, Daniel Murphy has another hit. Rendon is going to arrive at third base. And Nicolino right now just trying to survive the 5th. Miami's bullpen is starting to get active. So here comes Zimmerman, and Juan Nieves is on his way out. Gives us a chance to look back at Tim Wallach's career. He would spend the first 13 years of his career in Montreal. He played on some great Montreal teams. He would make 5 All-Star teams, win 3 Gold Gloves, was 4th in the MVP voting in 1987, had 42 doubles and 26 homers that year. I mean, that's to me, that's a type of career where if you're going to retire numbers,
yeah, that's a guy you look at.
That's a guy you look at who was a longtime Expo and won Gold Gloves, lots of All-Star appearances, Silver Sluggers. And here's Zimmerman now with runners at the corners. Zimmerman takes in. Ryan Zimmerman hit maybe the hardest ball of the day in the 3rd with a line drive that never got over 20 feet off the ground and nearly went over Ozuna's head in center field.
Every now and then you see a ball hit hard and it's a wow. That ball that Zimmerman hit to center field was a wow.
Sacrifice fly in the 1st, and then that loud out. You know, with that throw to 1st, the Marlins obviously are going to see the Nationals a lot more this year. They're going to have to, the Marlins, make an adjustment because the stolen base professor has got this team running. Davey Lopes, the first base coach.
Yeah, he's got a good key that he picked up. They see it, and they're trusting what they're seeing, and they're getting good jumps.
They've stolen 3 in this ball game. Zimmerman walks. Morris quickens his pace in Miami's bullpen. And here is Worth. He's hit 2 hard singles to left. Well, a storm's coming. We can see that, and you can feel it in the ballpark right now. And I'm talking about the rain clouds, not the Nationals with the bags loaded, but that's of concern. You see Murphy actually looking up into the sky, bottom of your screen. Oh, that's dark and ominous. And Don Mattingly is on his way out. And he wants the baseball from Justin Nicolino. Nationals trying to crack it open. Marlins trying to keep it close. Kendall Toyota called to the bullpen. Nationals on top. There is Brian Schneider. He also a former Expo. This Coors Banquet timeless moment. Nationals beat the Diamondbacks in 2005. Ivan Hernandez and Brian Schneider. Nick Johnson homers. As baseball returned to D.C., I asked Schneider the other day as we were looking at all the stuff in the ballpark, how many seasons he played for the Nationals in this ballpark, and he put up a big goose egg. He said none. He was an RFK guy for 3 seasons and never played in this ballpark as a National. He would play here as a Met and as a Philly from 2008 through 2012. All right, as Ben would say, back to this one. Bags loaded, and Morris bounces one in the dirt. Brian Morris, Jason Worth, they meet in the bottom of the 5th. 4-2 Nationals on top, bags loaded with 2 outs.
Marlins need Morris to throw that good sinker, get a ground ball, and get out of this inning.
It was Morris last night that gave up the Stephen Drew 2-run pinch hit homer. Marlins bullpen gave up 3 home runs last night. 2 were pinch hit jobs. Drew and Chris Heisey, and of course Harper's homer between those 2. Couple of hops. Echeverria on the run, flips to first. Nice job by Morris, cleans up the 5th. Nationals get that run back and lead it by 2. Coverage of baseball is brought to you by T-Mobile. Where shall we start? Jose Reyes. Now, he's been not playing and held out, so his suspension will go through May 31st for the Rockies. For the Twins, Byung-Ho Park, 2 home runs. Look at the estimated distance on that, 458, 411. Marlins will see the Twins this year. And the Play Ball Initiative starts today, encouraging participation in baseball everywhere for boys and girls across the country. Justin Bour. And you see the rain coming. 75. But the wind right now at 15. Jessica Blaylock, our weather correspondent. She's got the Doppler dialed in. What do you got, Jess?
Yeah, guys, we can see those clouds already starting to roll in. Rain was expected for this time. There was about a 60% chance of rain scheduled for 3 o'clock. We're only a few minutes away from 3 o'clock. The bad news is once the rain comes in, it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon. A 90% chance of rain at 4 o'clock, even at 7, which first pitch for that second game is scheduled for 7:05. At 7, there's still a 50% chance of rain.
Well, to both of you, that brings up just an odd scenario to me. Say that it rains in the 7th. They're not going to call the game because the Marlins aren't leaving town. And so the game will be delayed until they can finish it. And then what happens to the next game? Because it's 2 admissions. Ozuna busts his bat and dumps it into right center field. Marcel extends his hit streak.
Barry's mad because he's breaking all the bats.
He's been using Barry Bonds bats. And Ozuna. Hey, it worked. It was a hit.
Died a hero.
There you go. But you know, this is a day-night doubleheader, which means there's 2 admissions. Now, not a lot of people are going to stick around if this game's delayed by 2 or 3 hours, but they're going to have to finish the game and then let the next crowd in before they start the second game. Echeverria. Strasburg throws a strike. There's Bonds looking at what used to be his bat.
It just hurts. Even with Barry Bonds, know he's never going to have another bat in his life. But it hurts to see your bats go down like that, and especially when someone else breaks it.
Bonds wasn't a guy that broke a lot of bats either.
No, he had everything on the barrel. he was so good, man.
He did not get jammed much because of those quick hands. I think he's just happy to see Ozuna continue this nice run that he's on. It's the longest hit streak in the National League now at 13 games. Strasburg's fastball is fouled off. Marlins are down 4-2 here. Ozuna hit the 4th hit against Steven Strasburg. Now, rain or shine, Craig Minervini and Carl Pavano will be all dressed up and ready to go. That's because they're in a nice studio.
I'm sure they're in there chopping it up, discussing the game right now, getting ready for the post-game show.
No, they're on Las Olas Boulevard having lunch. Window shopping. Pavy looking at fine Italian suits.
Yeah.
Craig perusing the windows of probably Tommy Bahama. They've got the MLB At Bat app on their phone. The grounds crew peeking up at the clouds above.
Yeah, that's the unit we didn't want to see today.
Echeverria fouls that one off. Now, we talked about Echeverria and the struggles that he's had in this series. He has struck out 4 of his last 5 at bats. He's 0 for 6. Breaking ball. That one pulled foul.
You know, for Etcheverry, it's just all about persevering. The game doesn't stop. It's a 162 game schedule, and you're the shortstop, so you're going to be out there. You just got to figure out a way to fight through it and, you know, get some things going your way and get better.
Tom Mattingly talked about that before the ballgame. He said, look, if you're hitting a $190 or whatever it is, don't look at that. Just look at where you are over the course of a week or two and say, hey, from this point on, I'm going to shoot for 300. Because you can't move those, you really can't move those numbers that much. And right now, the wind just hit the ballpark. Look at that. I mean, there was no wind in here about 30 seconds ago.
The temperature dropped about 10 degrees in a matter of seconds just now.
And it looks nasty.
Oh, boy.
And, of course, we are protected, not sitting at the top of this ballpark. Edge, little tapper. Strasburg has it, flips underhand, and gets an out. This is where you want to be in a real broadcast location, not stuck up on the top of some, you know, the 8th floor of a tower exposed. I mean, here we are. Preston's getting his coat
geared up, man.
Yeah, but that's our protection.
Yeah, the guy there putting out windows up for us.
Yes. We are higher than the light towers up here.
Yes, when you can see the top of the lights, Rich, that's not a good thing.
We might as well be weather vanes on the top of a barn. Sorry. Mathis now. Strasburg just stepped off and looked into the dugout as if to say...
Did he step off or did he get blown off the mound just now?
Mathis up. Ichiro's on deck. And Strasburg throws a strike.
Can the wind cause a balk?
Well, what's the great story from Candlestick? Who was the... Carl Hubble was blown off in the All-Star game? Pitch is out. Of course, at Candlestick, it was... a calm day was the rarity, or calm night, I should say. The wind... especially at night games.
I want you to ask Al Leiter if he remembers a game that I played left field when he was pitching. A ball that I didn't catch because of the wind in Candlestick.
I saw it it may have been Marlins Park the other day where they actually stopped the game because there was a hot dog wrapper blowing out in center field. One. And I thought to myself, well, that's odd. I remember as a kid growing up and seeing like 50 hot dog wrappers and maybe small children blowing by. Remember those days at Candlestick where it's like entire coolers would blow.
All the trash would like swirl up in a corner.
Yes. Mathis a liner into left field. That's a base hit. And here comes Ozuna racing home in front of the Storm and across the plate. And Miami has cut the lead down to 1. Nice at bat. Mathis has 2 hits. He's doubled and now an RBI single.
Good job right here, Mathis. Strasburg has been in love with his soft stuff today. And Mathis stays back, puts a good swing on it, drives in a run.
And so an at bat for Ichiro. Sometimes you see a number, you think you'll never need it. But Ichiro against Strasburg is 4 for 10. You wouldn't think Ichiro would get an at bat against him. Pitch Penny brings you this pinch hitter, but here he is. Pinch hitting in the 6th. Mathis, pretty good wheels at first. And Ichiro takes a strike. It's 0-2.
Strasburg's pitch count is up to 102 now. That's important.
Felipe Rivero, who pitched last night out of the Nationals bullpen. Ichiro, a little tapper. Rendon, quick release, gets the out, but Miami gets a run. And with the rain coming, the Marlins have drawn within one. It's 4-3. Headers all time. This is the 44th. 26 of those have been on the road. 6 times it's been Expos or Nationals. Marlins have swept 7. Their opponents have swept 11. And right now, Don Mattingly is leaning on his bullpen. Nick Whitgren is in. You could see people in the background getting up from the seats. The rain has started. And we'll see how long this ball game can last. Hopefully the rain isn't that hard, but from everything we've heard, it's supposed to be pretty substantial. The temperature has dropped, the wind came in, and now here's the rain. And Whitgren, the former Boilermaker, goes to work on Wilson Ramos, Danny Espinoza, and then Strasburg's spot in the bottom of the 6th. And I'm hopeful that Jessica has found shelter. Ramos 0 for 2. That noise you hear, the drops are pretty substantial because whenever they hit a microphone down there, that's a pretty good pop. Jess, where are you?
Guys, I'm still hanging out in my camera well, but I have a solid setup down here. We're going double umbrellas.
Really? So we can't see you, but you're there somewhere, right?
Jess, get out of here.
Look at the hand.
Good. All I see is an arm.
Yeah.
Very reminiscent of last season in Colorado.
Yes, that's true. Although you're armed on this road trip, not only with your fine leather coat, but you have a snazzy Fox Sports pullover to keep you warm too. So
yes, I do.
You are armed and ready for anything.
Yes, I do. And just in case you missed me the first time.
Very nice.
Nice.
Whitgren now 1 and 2 on Ramos. This boy, the crowd has really headed for higher ground and drier spots into the concourses. At the top level, there is some shelter in terms of cover from rain. We have our windows shut
Yes.
Ramos gets into that one, drills it to left center field.
Wow.
Gone. My goodness. You don't see too many home runs that leave a ballpark faster than that.
No, that was a frozen rope, as they used to say. Can hang clothes on that thing. Good gracious. Tell you what, when this big guy gets his arms extended, he likes the ball down. And when he gets his arms extended, he produces some serious power. Good mercy. Wow.
It's a nice play. I mean, that play out there is not easy for a fan because that thing is coming at you. The wind is blowing, the rain is falling. Tom Mattingly wants to know if there was interference.
You think he may have reached over the fence?
Right.
I thought there was too much of a gap between there. Let's see. There's a gap. There's an actual gap between the fence and yeah. So the fan isn't actually right over the fence. There's a gap between the seating and that green wall.
Now this is not a challenge. This is, I think, asking. You can see the glove, but that's not over the main wall. This is not a challenge. Well, I guess the umpires are going to look at it. I think the youngster's thinking to himself, hey, I was legal. That's the space between. To quote, was that a Dave Matthews song? There's the catch. But you can see there's two levels there. There's the outer wall and then an inner wall which is out of play. It's a crew chief review, so it's not a challenge. You can, as a manager, go out and say, hey, I think you need to look at that home run. This was the old-fashioned, remember the first use of replay was for this. So not a challenge. If it's not overturned, the Marlins don't lose a challenge.
Oh, buddy, Cliff Floyd was involved in the first replay.
That's right. Well,
yeah, it's clearly over the wall.
Cliff was, and so was our ace cameraman John Tuitu, I believe.
Yes.
Third base camera at the old football stadium. (5-3). Nationals up. That includes the Ramos homer. Don't know that this is going to take much longer.
No, I think this will be. They're wrapping it up now.
It's a homer.
Alfonso Marquez gives a sign, and Wilson Ramos gets to stay in the dugout.
Not sure what Max Scherzer's upset about.
He wasn't too happy that they even tried to review it. Well, I think he felt like it was obvious. Man, that's just him, man. He's a fiery guy, you know? I love it.
Here's Espinosa. So Wickren comes in and gives up the Ramos homer. And the Nationals now have hit 4 home runs, all against Miami's bullpen in this series. I don't know if it's the wind or the rain, but StatCast apparently has been disabled. So we don't have an exit speed or the miles per hour on that Wilson Ramos homer.
It got out there in a hurry. I mean, you don't need a radar gun to tell you that was one of the hardest hit balls you can see
of the day, for sure.
Yes.
Flip to left. Echeverria, and it lands. Yelich picks it up. And holds Espinoza to a single.
This ball just finds a spot. You know, Yelich coming in. He's got great speed and range. Echeverria gets over there well. As they say, you couldn't drop it out there any better, Rich.
Strasburg will hit and probably will be trying to bunt. Oh, 2. The challenge for Wittgren here is keep Miami in this ball game. What you don't want to have happen is the Nationals to push across a few more runs if you're the Marlins.
That home run by Ramos was really big. Now it forces the Marlins to have to get something going on the bases. They can't tie the game up with just one swing.
Strasburg gets a piece.
Pulls it back and then just tries to put it in play.
Espinoza, the runner at first. Fourth appearance for Wittgren. Strasburg fouls another one off.
Mathis set up really far outside. He really tried to get off the plate. Watch how far he is out there. Yeah, his glove is almost in that left-handed batter's box from that angle.
Wittgren was pitching quite well with New Orleans, a 1.86 ERA. Popped up. Mathis.
Oh, nice play.
Throws to first. Now, what did he accomplish with that? That was a heads-up play by Espinoza. The runner is out, but safe at first. It's a forced play at first for the batter, but since the runner is back to first, he is safe.
Well, I thought it was because Dietrich stepped on the back, but it's because the runner is already back, he's safe. Was Dietrich standing on the back when he caught the ball?
I believe so.
So
the
I
runner.
have to look at that. I thought maybe if he tags the runner, then steps on the base to get the double play.
No, I think the runner is safe because he's on the bag.
Okay.
But the throw here, I mean, the play here for Mathis is not to throw it to first. It's to throw it to second and force Strasburg to run.
Right.
And now Don Mattingly is out, and he's going to discuss it with the umpires. It's called a fair ball. The umpires and Mattingly are having that discussion.
It's an interesting call. Yeah, he did the right thing by letting the ball drop, but then he should have thrown to second base.
Yeah, Mathis, I think, realizes what he did. You're right about that, and in fact, he captured it and had his opportunity. Because what you're hoping to do is you're hoping to get Strasburg out on base and get Espinoza off the base. Or if Strasburg doesn't run, get the out at second and maybe get the out at first and get a double play.
Yeah. Keep that pitcher on his feet as long as you can.
Taylor trying to bunt for a hit. He's been on base 3 times, scored twice, stolen 2 bases, walked twice, and has a single.
I think this kid has got a chance to be a really good player. He's got good power, plays a really good outfield, can play anywhere out there.
He's only 25, is Michael Taylor.
He looks like he's 17.
And he is, and as you pointed out, he's just an outstanding defensive outfielder. He's been voted the best defensive outfielder in the Nationals organization the last 5 years.
Talented young man.
That was a distinction that used to belong to Roger Bernardino. Remember him?
Yes, I do.
And Wittgren strikes him out. So a good out to get in Taylor. Now you've got Rendon with Espinoza still at first. Nick Wittgren, born in Torrance, California, that's Southern California, but his family moved to West Lafayette, Indiana when he was 12. So you had to think that Purdue might be in his future, and that's where he ended up. So far, the rain has not been that heavy, which is great news, because these two teams can play in this all day. Is Jessica still undercover? Someone ought to send her some food.
Somebody needs to send Jessica inside.
Still here.
Of course you are,
hanging
Jessica.
out under the double umbrella setup.
In right field, Rendon shoots it to right. Stanton was there quickly, and Espinoza will stop at second. And that sets up a matchup between Nick Wittgren and Bryce Harper. And that's how quickly it can happen in a baseball career. 1 week you're pitching in New Orleans in the Pacific Coast League. Well, this guy is in all the headlines and all of that. And next thing you know, it's you and him in a key spot in the major leagues.
And every minor leaguer watches baseball news and all the shows.
Oh, without question. And now, it used to be you'd read the box scores.
Right.
That was 20 years ago. Now everybody's got the MLB app, MLB.TV, so you watch the parent club games. Fastball misses away. I'm sure the hotels around the Coast League and the Texas League and the Southern League have got MLB Network with all the highlights.
Most of them have the channels.
I think they're staying in better hotels than when you and I were in the
I hope so.
minor leagues.
I hope so. Those A-ball, when you get to AAA, you're okay.
Right.
But A-ball through AA, oh man.
You don't have mints on pillows yet, but
You barely have pillows.
Harper takes down low, and it's 2-1. Whitgren was taken in the 2013 draft, so he didn't spend a lot of time in the minor leagues. It's in as the rain falls in DC. And Harper certainly is zeroed in on anything that's hittable here.
Well, Whitgen's job right now is to not be that guy he was watching on ESPN or Fox, whatever channel. You know, you don't be a highlight right now.
It's a pretty good pitch.
You know, he doesn't want to be on Fox Sports 1 playing all night over and over again. That's the worst thing about it. When something happens, you see it all night, every night. You can't get away from it.
Full count. And with 2 outs, Espinosa from second, Rendon from first will be moving. And Harper takes. You know, Bryce Harper certainly is honing his patience. Second walk here. And the Marlins bullpen empty. And so here's Murphy, who's certainly no bargain. And Dusty Baker's hoping that Murphy adds a little more protection.
Well, it's going to give Murphy a chance to drive in runs, because no matter where Bryce Harper hits or who hits in front of him, who hits behind, they're going to pitch him the same. You know, so what Dusty's banking on is having Harper get walked more. Now you got Murphy having a chance to drive into runs, because one of the problems they had in that Chicago series was they walked Bryce Harper so much, but then none of the runs got driven in when he was on base.
Yeah, that was a Ryan Zimmerman's nightmare of a series. He stranded 14 runners in one game. Murphy, sacrifice flies lined out, singled. And Zimmerman's on deck.
Good pitch.
For a strike. Dustin McGowan.
Murphy's seeing the ball so well right now. I mean, I guess to be hitting 400, you have to be seeing it well, but he's in that happy place, Rich.
Very happy. Center field, Ozuna makes the catch. Nationals, a long half inning, settled for just the 1 run on the Ramos homer. So this day started with Justin Nicolino having control issues. You see the light rain, 72 degrees, with Preston Wilson and the safely hidden Jessica Blaylock. She's under multiple umbrellas. 5-3. And Felipe Rivero is on the scene. Now, Derek Dietrich digs in. The last time these two guys saw each other last night, Rivero hit Dietrich in a scary moment, but it was up in that upper right arm shoulder area. Dietrich hangs in and bangs one to center field. Taylor won't get it, and it scoots by him. It's going to roll to the warning track, and Dietrich's not slowing down. He'll hold at second base with a double. Boy, he got dotted last night by Rivero, but he hung in there, and the first pitch, he drills it for extra bases.
Yeah, this ball is stroked well. Middle, and he punishes. Michael Taylor gets a pretty good jump on this ball, but it's just hit so hard he can't run it down. Good swing by Dietrich. I mean, that's a ball where even if Michael Taylor angles back a little bit, that ball's still going to be a double.
So here's Prado. The Marlins have the top of their order up. Bullpen is active for the Nationals. Prado, Yelich, Stanton lined up after the Dietrich double. It's a 2-run game. Strasburg is done after 6 innings, 5 hits, and 104 pitches. Rivero part of the Nationals pen last night, and it took 5 relievers to go 4 innings, and Blake Treinen in the middle of that went 2 himself. So Rivero wasn't around for long. 40 of those 104 pitches for Strasburg were 95 or above. Breaking ball for a strike to Prado. Pitch in. Prado hit by a pitch in the 5th. Actually, I think we all should feel fortunate that the rain is not heavy enough at this point to stop things, just to slow things down a bit.
We need one of those patented Martin Prado knocks right back up the middle, Rich.
That would help. You've got Yelich and Stanton beyond Prado. Two and 2. Rivero new to the big leagues last year. And last year it was all about velocity. He was 3rd among major league relievers in average fastball velocity. Aroldis Chapman and Zach Britton. Pitch is out. Rivero wanted it. You saw him stop and look in, but it was out. And so the count's 3-2.
That was a good take by Martin. That guy's rushing it up there too. He's bringing it.
Prado, liner, center field, base hit. Dietrich read it well, and he'll score easily. And just like you ordered up, that patented Prado liner to center.
Oh, he does it so well. Gets his hands inside that ball, drives it back up the box. This man can hit. Nice, easy setup. Hands through, stays back. That's the beauty of when a guy is going well. He can let the fastball get to him because his body's not rushing out to it. His body doesn't get in the way of the swing. And you can take a ball middle in and still hit it back up the middle because your hands are so free.
Here's Yelich now. Yelich has had a nice ball game. Homering off of Strasburg in the first. Bounced out in the third, and then an RBI double in the fifth. The homer was to center. The double was down the left field line. It's a ball and a strike.
Got to give the Marlins credit. They keep pecking away. They keep getting guys on. They're trying to do the little things. Good slider there to Yelich.
Sean Kelly, Washington's pen. Yelich's numbers here aren't bad. 5 homers in 22 games. Strike 3 called. And so Yelich is rung up.
That's a good pitch. Started out over the plate, ended up breaking right on the corner.
Look at that.
Wow.
Look at the location there. Dusty Baker doesn't want Rivera to face Stanton. Sean Kelly will. Fish a run away. West Kendall Toyota called to the pen.
Running, and Derek Dietrich did this very well. He knew where that outfielder was playing before this ball was hit, and watch this right off the bat. He's gone. He knows that ball is going to get down. Great jump, made that run easy.
So Sean Kelly, who has yet to give up an earned run in 16 appearances, fires a fastball for a strike to Stanton. It's 0-1. Giancarlo is 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Kelly has pitched in Seattle with the Yankees, and last year with the Padres in San Diego. He was very good last year, 2-2 with a 2.45 ERA.
Giancarlo hit the last ball really hard to Espinosa at short.
Nationals signed him to a 3-year contract, did they, with Kelly, so they expect him to be here and contribute in the middle of their bullpen. Pitch is out. You can see Ramos try to snap it back to the corner of the plate. Wow, look at that.
It didn't miss by much.
It actually got a piece.
Yeah, so I guess it didn't miss.
Yeah. So if he goes back out there. Prado's at first. He went up and in, and Stanton strikes out.
This ball was actually supposed to be away. It rides up and in. Stanton can't get to it.
Justin Bour. Bour's walked twice and popped out. And documented early, this is a ballpark he likes to hit in. Not far from where he grew up. Slowly hit. That's the shortstop Espinosa that takes care of it. Miami gets a run. Look at that, still within a run. 5-4. On top, 7th inning stretch. Fans dodging raindrops. No raindrops there. MLB.com ballpark app, perfect compliment. All right, ballpark app, it's on your phone, it's on your tablet. You fire it up, you get menus of the ballpark wherever you are in Major League Baseball. You can order food from your seats. Preston's going to try that between games. And of course, you can actually put your game ticket on your phone or your watch or whatever else you've got. Ballpark app, just go to MLB.com and download the free ballpark app. It will not, however, make rain go away. Got to get that on just right. I need some help. How about a little help? Come on, honey. Zimmerman's up. Nick Wickren continues. It's still troublesome.
Yeah, that's
where I think
she's like, just stop, quit touching it.
I think that's where you need to resort to like duct tape at that point. Well, obviously we can hear the raindrops in our headsets. I would think if you're at home and you've got one of those cool surround sound audio setups, it's got to sound pretty interesting. Fly ball, right field foul. This was a Justin Nicolino start. There's the mics that you're trying to, as our fine crew here in DC got placed in just all kinds of spots. Duct tape and bungee cords, those are staples of television production. Bohr got a piece and can't pick it up. Wow. Zimmerman's got himself what would probably be a hit. Now, it's a wet ball for sure, but if you ask Justin, I'm sure he'll tell you he thought he should have made that play.
It just bounced away so hard. It was right at him. Got the glove on it, just couldn't secure it, and when it came out of the glove, it really kind of came out of there hard towards the grass.
It's not a play a first baseman is used to making, that bare hand short flip to first base, because he's usually at first base.
Right.
And it's going to be an error on Bohr. Worth is up. And Wickren's right back in where he was in the 6th with runners on base. He actually finished the inning with the bags loaded after giving up the homer to Ramos.
Worth with 2 hard hit base hits today. Hasn't been swinging the bat well, but when you have a day like today, sometimes that can kind of get things going a little bit. Finally hit a few on the nose.
Two hard singles. And a fastball that misses up. Preston, would you like a nightcap?
I'd like a nap, Rich.
Well, you may not get it, pal. Tanner Roar, Henry Flores. Tonight, 6:30, Marlins Live. Stanton is going to get chased back to the track. And in the middle of the track makes the catch. Zimmerman's coming. Stanton's throw to second. And he's in there with a dive. That's a good heads-up play by Ryan Zimmerman.
I'm not sure if Giancarlo could either get in position, but it looked like he hesitated a little bit after he caught it. Let's take a look at that. Make sure I got the right view of it.
There's your Wilson chant for Wilson Ramos. He hit an absolute bullet to left. Maybe the atmospheric conditions have affected StatCast.
I think maybe the barometric pressure has affected the StatCast, Rich.
Which is on the Fritz, so to speak. Not Fritz Peterson, the former Yankee, but that's even before your time.
Yeah. You missed me with that one.
Yeah. That's for late night. That story is for late night with the fish. Zimmerman's a second. Busted bat on a hop. Echeverria has it. It's a first in time. And here's Espinoza, the shortstop for the Nationals.
One day we got to do this, Rich. We got to get the camera crew to get a picture of your scorecard and get a picture of mine, because you look at my scorecard sometimes, Rich, and it's like you feel sorry for me. Yours is all nice and neat and everything's in order. And mine is like just trying to be something real, right?
But you know, look, let me tell you a story.
Stop looking at my paper, Rich.
Let me tell you a story. Wickren's first pitch. It's fouled back. My scorecard isn't that great, but you're learning and you're doing fine. You are coming along just
I've been
fine.
keeping scorecard all my life. I used to sit down with my mom during the games.
All right, well then forget it. You're in trouble then, because I'm here to tell you.
You're not new at this?
No, I thought you were like me. I never kept score until I stopped playing. And the first game I broadcast, I sat down and I realized, oh my gosh, I don't know how to keep score. Because I was out of college, but I played in college, and if you started and you played, you never kept score. The pitchers kept score.
Right.
So, you know, I remember it was a minor league game in Spokane, Washington, and they started the game, and I looked at the score sheet and I said, this is going to be interesting. Bohr is there and has it. Nicely done. But you, Preston, it's not that bad. Come on. 5-4 Nationals. Doubleheader, and this day is actually looking more like night with the dark clouds above DC. You see the rain on the camera lens. It's starting to come down a little stronger now. The umpires are all out by the mound and looking to see if that mound is still in good enough shape to continue. And it looks like it is.
I'll tell you, Rich, nobody in either one of those dugouts wants to see that grounds crew come out with that tarp. They want to at least finish this game and then see what happens from there.
Marlins dugouts, 7 o'clock here in DC is the second game. We've got it 6:30 for Marlins Live. And the question here is, can the Nationals bullpen hold the Marlins off? As Craig described, Miami's been battling back ever since giving up the 3 runs in the bottom of the first to the Nationals. Marcell Ozuna fouls one off. Ozuna does not look like a Barry Bonds bat now. He just busted another one. He busted one last night.
Yeah, I think Barry cut him off.
And he busted one today. The one he busted today was a base hit. Ozuna, Echeverria, then Mathis scheduled. Against Sean Kelly. We documented Kelly's run and how good he's been this year. Well, that just got away. It's not a pleasant feeling as a hitter, right?
No.
When it's wet and a guy misses it, misses his mark by that much.
Keep you a little light on your feet.
Ozuna's got another hit, scorches that one to right. Boy, it's been fun to watch Ozuna come out of it. 13-game hit streak, longest in the National League, with 2 hits today. So, Adeiny Hechavarria, Marlins would love their shortstop to pull out of it himself.
You know, sometimes you just need that ugly hit. You need a blooper over the shortstop, that 15 hopper that somehow they can't feel, but it's still a big. You need something to happen to go your way.
Kelly keeps looking at that hand as if it's wet.
Yeah, see, I don't want that. I don't want him looking like he don't know where the ball's going when he's pitching. Like, go ahead and take care of that. Get you some rosin.
You think pine tar should be legal for pitchers on a limited basis in a spot like this?
The rosin gets pretty tacky when it's a little wet, so I don't think they need pine tar.
Okay, that's fair. Some pitchers would make that argument that when it's cold they should be allowed to have it.
Well, of course they'd make that argument.
See, that's why I wanted to get it's equal time amendment. We are in Washington, D.C. So Hechavarria fouls it back. It's 1-2. There's the Capitol building, the obligatory Capitol shot. Had a chance to go up to the top of that building on the outside.
Really?
Yes.
What was that like?
It's incredible. Jeff Conine, who's got contacts everywhere.
Of course, Jeff. Where isn't Conine? Kilimanjaro.
Right.
He's everywhere, man. It's unbelievable.
Probably 3 or 4 years ago, and Conine led a group of us up to the top on the inside. And there's a little door you can walk outside. Hechavarria pops this one up. And Zimmerman's got it. So the struggles continue for Etch. Road trip. Many of us have lost our itineraries by now, so this helps. That means tomorrow, 1 o'clock, and then it's on to Philly. Marlins will hop on the bus and a short ride to Philly. 3 in Philly, afternoon game on Wednesday, and a Thursday off day before, yes, the Nationals. Not only do the Marlins get 4 games in 45 hours here, but with 3 next weekend, that's 7 of 10 games, Marlins and Nationals.
We'll get to know each other a little better.
Ozuna still at first. Mathis, 2 hits in this one. Has doubled, has an RBI single. Real Muto hasn't played, and he's already picking stuff out of his cleats. Urania ready. Love how David Phelps has got a dry spot in the corner there. And the reason Phelps is up with the ball in his hand is if Miami were to take the lead or even tie the game. It's the 8th inning. You'd probably see Phelps instead of Urania. That's a good fastball. It's 1-2. That not a nasty cutter, but a breaking ball in the dirt.
Mathis already with 2 hits on the day. Could make it a really big day if he pulls up with a knock right here.
You don't see too many chainsaw ads in ballparks, do you? Here's the 2-2. Got him at 91.
He just went with the heat that time and got it by Mathis. Ball's in the middle of the zone, just beat him with it.
Now Real Muto will pinch hit in Whitgren's spot. We got Dietrich on deck. The lefty is up and ready in Washington's pen. Oliver Perez. That's in case Dietrich, who's on deck, comes up. Ozuna back with a dive. Well, the busiest people in this ballpark between games will be the clubbies. The clubhouse attendants, they've got to clean off spikes, get fresh uniforms out, get people fed.
I don't think people understand how much clubbies mean to baseball players, how much they do for them.
0-2's out from Kelly. And it's 1 and it's 2. Remember, it's a day-night doubleheader, so Don Mattingly and the Fish, Dusty Baker's Nationals. 7 o'clock start, 6:30 Marlins Live. Realmuto strikes out. Kelly continues his nice run out of the bullpen. And it's still 5-4. Is the presenting sponsor of Miami Marlins baseball. Rain comes down. Grounds crew has been at the ready for the past hour, but so far no stoppages. Now the grounds crew also between innings came out and worked on the mound and the plate. Jose Urena is in. Jessica Blaylock's been under like 5 umbrellas. All we've seen is her little hand waving on occasion.
Yeah, here it is. Let me see if I can get it going real quick. There we are.
Wait a minute.
Hey, guys.
What's under there? You're watching on a monitor, right?
I am. I've got the big umbrella for my monitor and my microphone when I'm not using it, and then the small umbrella for me. But again, still the double umbrella setup because this rain has not let up at all. And just taking a look at the temperature as well, it started out at about 73 degrees when this game began. It's dropped down to 59, so that's almost a 15-degree temperature difference. But luckily, it looks like the rain is going to come through and then should clear up by about 6:30 or 7. So hopefully, if the weather can come through and then clear up, we should be good for the start of Game 2 in this doubleheader.
Now, Jessica, you'll be with us for Marlins Live postgame and then Marlins Live pregame as well?
That is correct. I will head into the clubhouse to get sound during the postgame show for this Game 1, and then I will be back with you guys for pregame in Game 2.
All right, thank you. That pregame for Game 2 slated for 6:30. Jose Urena, Matt Den Decker Another Westminster Academy kid out of South Florida. And he swings and misses.
I wonder how many times did high school teammates play on the same team in the major leagues?
That's, you know, I'm sure we could find that out for tomorrow. We have
crack staff on that.
We have people. We have the crack staff, and then we have people that the crack staff depend on.
So the crack staff's got a crack staff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That works.
That's a good question, though. We'll fire that off. Den Decker, and then his high school teammate Michael Taylor. So they're not only high school teammates, they're not only in the big leagues together, but they're hitting 1 and 2 in this inning.
That's got to be a lot of fun.
On the ground, and it eats Dietrich up. That ball scooting. It's wet, and Dietrich was actually on the outfield grass.
Yeah, he just tried to play goalie on this thing when it was hit, tried to get down on it. I think it kind of scooted up on him, and he just couldn't corral it. He's got to do the best you can at that point. Yeah, that ball hit him in the glove. That's going to be an error.
Michael Taylor now with Den Decker at first. Nationals will try to scratch out a run here. Although, who am I kidding? They got in 2 hitters, they got the big guns coming up. There's Papelbon. And of course, last night, the curious move by Dusty Baker was not to start Papelbon in the 9th, but to let Felipe Rivero pitch to 2 hitters. And then Papelbon the next 2. Chris Spire next to Dusty. Papelbon looks like he's just about ready.
I like what I've seen from Urania lately. Throwing with so much more confidence. Every pitch he's throwing it with conviction. You can sometimes tell when a guy starts to believe in himself. You know, people always talk about he's got stuff, he's got velocity. Now he's starting to believe he can pitch here. It is a different looking guy that we've seen in the past couple years.
Fastball line, left center field. That's trouble. Ozuna cuts it off and then drops it, and Den Decker is not stopping. He's coming home. He will score.
Michael Taylor strikes again. Well, he barreled that ball up really nicely. Just ran back in and he got his hands through, drilled it in the gap. And Ozuna does not get down. When you're an outfielder, you have to use your legs. You can't bend at the waist because the glove gets behind your eyes. You have to get down with your legs to keep your glove out in front of your eyes to catch those balls. And we've seen Ozuna miss a few balls over the years, and it's usually that type of play, the ground ball that he doesn't get all the way down on.
It's going to be a double because of Taylor's speed, but an error on Ozuna that allows Den Decker to score. And it seems like every time in this ballgame the Marlins have been able to get within 1 run. The Nationals kick them back to 2 runs.
It's funny. It's pretty much just like what the Cubs did to them in that series in Chicago. the Nats would get close, then Chicago would score. The Nats would get close, Chicago would pull away.
Miami has made 3 errors in this ball game, 2 in this inning. And Rendon takes down low. Urania trying to get the mud out of his spikes. Well, Papelbon's plenty loose. I guess the big question is, will he be needed? Urania needs some help from his defense behind him. Liner, Dietrich. So there's the first out. Here's Harper. What do you do here if you're Don Mattingly? Do you pitch to Harper?
I would hope that he doesn't pitch to him right here. Just, you got first base open. Don't even give him a chance. I wouldn't even let him get in the box. I'd just show him to go to first from the dugout.
Yeah, you can see Mathis is no hesitation.
Yeah.
Jack Sparrow's brother here.
That's Gabe Sparrow.
Long lost. So the intentional walk. And it's Daniel Murphy who gets the at-bat. 1 out, first and second. Bottom 8. Urania's changeup misses low. Ball and a strike.
Good pitch right there. I think Murphy just wanted to get another look at him. He didn't even budge on that pitch.
That one's going to peel out of play. This thing started in the sun in the 70s. And it almost looked like the Nationals were going to knock the Marlins out in the first round, right? 3 walks to the first 3 hitters. Justin Nicolino could not find the plate. The Nationals got 3 runs in that first, but Nicolino settled down, and he would pitch into the 5th. Late swing by Murph, and he got a piece.
That is the very, if you put emergency hat, that's an emergency hat. That's just try right at the end there. But good hitters do that. They'll spoil that pitch, keep fighting you off until you make a mistake.
Urania looking for a dry spot on his pants. He tried the thigh, the knee, the ankle, and then he settled on the hamstring. See him rubbing the baseball, trying to dry it out.
Yeah, he doesn't feel good about it. Matt is going out with him to make sure they're on the same page about how they want to attack this very dangerous hitter in Daniel Murphy.
And Murphy fights off another one. The rain continues to fall. Murphy getting more creative by the minute. Look at that swing.
Do not try that at home, kids. He's like, what was that?
How's that one? He looks more like he's fighting off a swarm of bees than swinging a bat in a major league game, although that was a nice swing. The other two were.
But that's what good hitters have, the ability to look bad on a pitch and then get it right back together and then absolutely lace one somewhere. You cannot be afraid to look bad in the batter's box. It's going to happen. Happened to me quite a bit, Rich.
That's a nifty pickup in the mud, and the turn not in time. I'm telling you, it's not easy. You've seen the Marlins kick 2 balls in this inning. That play by Prado is exceptional. Look at how wet it is.
It's getting nasty out there. But watch it. This ball is hit very hard. After we saw those funky swings, he just let it get there, slapped the barrel out there. Martin Prado just made a nice play.
Yeah, the puddles that are forming out, especially between first and second, look awful treacherous.
Yeah.
And if they don't stop it here, they will at the very least have to come out between innings and throw something out there or try to dry that up. Zimmerman now, he fouls at the plate. It's 0-1.
Yeah, you can see the umpires kind of looking around.
Here's the other thing to think about. You don't want that infield to get so wet. I mean, look, they're trying to complete this game. And they won't worry about the second game. But if it gets so wet, once this game is over or delayed, that they're going to have to put the tarp on it, and it'll be a tarp over a wet infield. Tough play again, and on the wet ground, Martin Prado finds the ball and gets the out. Nationals add a run. Papelbon, the rain, and a 2-run lead in the 9th. Brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. by the all-new 2017 Chrysler Pacifica and by your South Florida Honda dealers. Grounds crew, as we thought, working on the infield right now in the trouble spots. Game 2 is tonight, 7 o'clock start here, 6:30 for Marlins Live. At least we hope so, with the rain, which has been going for about an hour now. This is really the first big attack on the field by the grounds crew. Grounds crew's headed off. And on is Jonathan Papelbon. Papelbon came in and saved last night's ball game, but the oddity was he didn't start the inning. He only got the last 2 outs. Dusty Baker wanted a lefty in there to begin the inning. You see the numbers at 359. For the Nationals, that they're hopeful that Papelbon, who has lost a lot of his velocity, can still, through experience and a variety of off-speed stuff and location, get saves. 6-time All-Star, top 10 in saves.
So being that guy in the 9th inning is not just about velocity. I mean, a lot of it is presence and confidence.
Derek Dietrich is up, and a fastball misses up without question, and he has proven that throughout his career, that he's not lacking for confidence or the ability to stay cool under pressure. 2-0. The fact that the Marlins are down 2 is a big one. Nationals got a run in the bottom of the 8th. Then Decker and Taylor combining on that one. And Papelbon's gone 3-0. So it's Dietrich, Prado, Yelich, Stanton, Bohr. If it gets further than that, Ozuna. That's a strike. There still are some significant wet spots out there on the field. And Papelbon walks Dietrich. This cannot be easy for Papelbon. He's working on a mound that's been worked over. You see all the moisture between first and second.
Well, and every pitch that he missed with was on the third base side, all on that side of the strike zone. So he's got to make an adjustment to get that release point to drive the ball down, get it through the strike zone. Right now he's letting it go a little bit out over that side. Sometimes the arm doesn't catch up, body gets a little bit out in front.
Pitches out. You know, watching Dietrich, he's got to be careful here. He's got a patch of dry ground just off of first, but when he goes to his right, he's in a big puddle. That puddle to his right, you don't want to get out there and start spinning your wheels. Breaking ball, and Papelbon finds the strike zone. Maybe a little more touch on that than the fastball right now. Second strike. It's 1-2.
When you locate like that, you don't need to throw 95.
Prado was the last out for Papelbon last night, a bouncer to short. Yelich and Stanton waiting. Papelbon away, 2-2. Day-night doubleheader. Actually, it's day, rain, and then night doubleheader. Breaking ball, bouncer, that's to short. Out there, relay to first. Out there. Catch and tag by Zimmerman. And Papelbon gets a big double play off the bat of Martin Prado.
Two-hopper there. Gives a good feed to Daniel Murphy, and Zim actually comes off the bag and makes a nice tag. Because Murphy didn't handle it that well at the bag, kind of fumbled it a little bit, but Zimmerman picked him up over there.
You saw Zimmerman talking to Alfonso Marquez, the second base umpire. Here's Yelich now. What the Marlins would love to have is at least get Stanton to the plate before this one ends. He's on deck. Yelich has been terrific today. Solo homer, that was off Strasburg. RBI double off Strasburg as well. And Strasburg had given up just one extra base hit to a lefty bat this year. Good numbers against Papelbon, but these conditions, I don't think you have any numbers that you can rely on, whether it's for the pitcher or the hitter.
This is turning into just a messy, soup-like substance on that field. Look at that. It's wow.
Rain falling harder, and it's outside. It's 3-1. If this game were not in the ninth inning, it would have been stopped about probably 7-8 minutes ago.
Yeah, they're trying everything they can to not put that tarp on the field before the end of it.
Yelich takes ball 4, and here comes Stanton. Well, this adds certainly some intrigue to the soggy drama here in D.C. 2 walks for Papelbon. Stanton now. Big puddles throughout the infield. 3 infielders on the third base side. Stanton swings and misses. Now the Nationals are giving Yelich second, but whether he can navigate through the mud, I'm not sure.
They're really attacking Stanton up in the zone with fastballs.
And he fouls it back. It's 0-2. 2 fastballs up. Yelich at first. Miami down to their last strike. On a wet afternoon in Washington, D.C. And that breaking ball kind of got away from Papelbon. Stanton fights it off. You see the water pouring from the helmet. Stanton trying to keep it off the bill of the cap. Papelbon wants a dry baseball. The home plate umpire.
Well, sometimes the umpires, the balls in the back that they keep the balls in with the steady rain, sometimes they have to change those because they get wet. But remember, the umpires, they don't get to go in the dugout. They have to stand out there the whole time in the rain.
I don't think I've ever seen that. The ball boy actually threw the ball out to Papelbon.
I protested.
Yelich will be moving. Another 0-2. And he got him. Stanton strikes out. And so Jonathan Papelbon, in really difficult conditions, gets the save. And the Marlins drop the first 2 of this 4-game series. That's the first of a day-night doubleheader. And the Nationals will celebrate it and then get themselves inside and dry off. Marlins Live is coming up. 6-4 the final. The Nationals win it. We'll have some final thoughts and get you ready for the second game, which is later tonight. Coming up.